Okay, here we are looking at our 3-day average report. And we're going to try and interpret this massive, huge report. If you take the little box over here in the scroll bar and scroll, this thing is unbelievably long. So we're going to start at the top and we're going to take it step by step, piece by piece, and break it all down. A couple of things to know. In general, you're going to have several sections. Each section will give you a heading. This one obviously is called Intake versus Goals. It will remind you of the dates that you have in case that's important to you. And then below will be a report. In general, what you're going to see is columns. The very left-hand column will be the category you're looking at. In this particular case, we're going to look at a whole series of nutrients. It might be a list of food groups. You'll see in each report it's a little bit different, but that's your category. What are you looking at? Next column over will have something like DRI, where the R stands for recommended, or it'll use the word recommended, or it might say goal. In any of those cases, this first column with numbers in it is what we think, based on our best information, is the right amount for you to take in of whatever we're looking at. So in this particular case, based on everything I've told the computer about myself, my height, my gender, my age, etc., the computer has determined, based on government information, that 2,003 calories is the right amount of calories for me to take in general, from one day to the next. So that's your goal, or your recommended, or in this case called DRI. Stands for Dietary Reference Intake. Okay. Next column over, it may say intake, it may say actual. But in either case, what it's doing is it's telling you the number based on what you told the computer about what you ate is the number in reality that you took in. So that says here, my goal, my recommendation is to get about 2,000 calories. What I reported to the computer so that it could calculate only came up to 1,900 calories. In some cases, you'll have another column here with percent of recommendation, percent of goal, percent of DRI. That's essentially like your grade, right? So my grade on calories is 95%. The way I think about these is, would I be happy with this on a test? Would I be happy with a 95? Yeah, I'd be happy with a 95. Would I be happy? We're going to scroll down just to give you a sense. Is there anything that's, here we go. Would I be happy with a 56 on a test? No, right? So that gives you some sense. And don't worry about all those decimal points. You can round up. That's enough for now. There's a whole nother question about, well, what if I have more than 100? Well, on a test, I'd be delighted if I had extra credit. What you're going to learn over the course of the semester is that it really depends on the nutrient, whether, quote unquote, extra credit is good or bad. And I don't want to get into that now because it really is nutrient by nutrient, and you're going to learn that over the course of the semester. But just to get you oriented, once again, we're saying that your columns are going to be your categories, your recommendation, what we think is your actual intake, and then how you're sort of being graded. How well does your actual intake compare to your recommendation? You sometimes will also see this column over here with these bar charts. For now, I want you to ignore that. Some of them are very confusing. Your instructor will go over them with you when you get to that particular portion of the class. And if they don't, for whatever reason, you can always ask. But for clarity and simplicity right now, I want you to ignore those. Okay, all of that said, now let's look at this report. The first one that shows up, the section is called Intake versus Goals. We're going to take a look at that. And I'm going to make my screen smaller so you can get a better sense of it without my scrolling. And then we'll go back out when you want to go back out. Okay, so intake versus goals. Again, here are my dates, here are my columns, etc. Right? So, and this is even subdivided, right? So we've got some information over here on kilocalories. I tend to just say calorie. Lots of nutrition professionals say calorie. Technically, we mean kilocalorie. If you're ever not clear on what the instructor is saying or what a book is saying, just ask the question. Protein, carbohydrates, and fat. Then we break the fat down, and I'm not going to get into what these different things are, because again, you're going to learn that over the course of the semester. But if we keep scrolling down, we see a bunch of breakdowns on the fat here and here. We see a little breakdown on carbohydrate. We see water. We see alcohol. And then we go below and we see vitamins and minerals. Some of these you've heard of. Everybody in the room has heard of vitamin C. Some of these maybe not, right? Maybe you haven't heard of niacin. Maybe you never heard of vitamin K. This alpha tocopherol, you probably have heard of under a different name. It's also called vitamin E. And then down here, same thing with minerals. Probably everybody's heard of calcium and iron. Maybe you've heard of magnesium, maybe not. Maybe you've heard of zinc, etc. Okay? But in every case, what you're looking at in this, and again, just to remind you, this is our intake versus goals. This right here is your most basic snapshot about how well your diet meets the recommendation for specific nutrients. One of the quickest and easiest ways to look is to look here at this percent of DRI. And again, you're looking to see, do I see a grade I'd be happy with on a test? Well, yeah, 95, great. 100, great. 100, great. 100, great, right? Okay, 56, 42, not so great. 106, reasonable, right? This 130, we don't really know. This 405, oh my God, is that too much? Etc. But the first thing I want you to do when you get your intake versus goals is you're going to scroll through and you're looking for anything that looks low. And again, by low, I'm going to say, well, if you think about a test, what, less than 80% might concern you, less than 75% might concern you, something in that ballpark there. So why don't you take a minute and go generate your 3-day average and take a look at that intake versus goals and see what you can figure out. And I will see you in the next video.